Welcome back. As you know, I'm Eli, the computer guy, here for the Daily Blob, where I will admit I'm really starting to miss. I'm not sure if they were the good old days, but at least they weren't bad in the stupid ways the modern tech world is bad. Remember back in the days as a technology professional when you understood why you got paid? Now, you might hate the users and think they were stupid. You might hate the executives and think they were stupid. You might do a lot of stupid crap during the day. But more or less, you understood why, in fact, you were getting your paycheck, right? When I was doing tech support, we had our work order system. You log into the work order system in the morning, you see a whole bunch of stupid tickets, and then you cleared those tickets. You understood what it was that you were doing. We had metrics, we had analytics, the boss could see our activity and that type of thing. Remember those old days. I miss the days when technology professionals understood at least why they got a paycheck. Anyways, we now have this modern world where everything is investor-driven, investment-driven, and so the whole idea of understanding why you get your paycheck has gone completely out the window. And I find this to be fascinating right now, again, with the whole argument of work from home or return to office. As I said, I was eavesdropping on two people talking when I was in Miami. I was at a tech meetup in Miami, and one of the people there was arguing that the reason that managers want folks to come back to the office is that they don't understand what their employees' KPIs are, or key performance indicators. Basically, why do the employees actually get paid, and how do you rank employees? Again, back in the old days, right? Whether it was sales, whether it was tech support, or whatever else, like you could actually have a rankings board and know more or less who your best employees are and who your worst employees are, because you were tracking what it was that they were doing. Nowadays, you just got employees. I mean, how do you fully track ass in seat? It's a difficult thing. So anyways, we have this modern world where, I don't know, tech employees get paid because they're supposed to get paid. Why? It's just really frustrating. As I've said many times, the most controversial statement that I make on YouTube is not about guys in Gaza. It is not about Chinaman. It's about technology professionals solve problems with technology. That is literally the most controversial statement that I make on YouTube, because so many technology professionals making six-figure salaries literally argue about that. And I just it's like one of those, it's like when a 3-year-old comes up to you and tries to like argue world politics, and you're just like, kiddo, I don't understand where we're going with this. What do you mean as a six-figure salary tech employee? You don't think a technology professional's job is to solve problems with technology? Kiddo, I don't understand where we're going with this. But anyways, I find this fascinating right now with the whole push to artificial intelligence. And one of the things that I've argued is the push to AI really has very little to do about artificial intelligence itself, in that simply cowardly, lemming-like executives and managers are just following what everybody else is doing, right? When COVID happened, you had all of these tech companies hiring tens of thousands of employees. Why? Literally, who the hell knows? As I've said, technology scales what's called exponentially, not linearly. You may need to hire some more people to support a lot more users, but it's only some, right? But they're hiring tens of thousands of people. All of a sudden, Elon Musk decides to fire people, and so everybody else is fired, all in lockstep. And one of the things we're hearing right now is this whole push for artificial intelligence, right? Everybody has to implement artificial intelligence. And I've talked about this being so weird, where OpenAI trying to be the leader in artificial intelligence, right? That makes sense. That's what their play is. Anthropic, that's what their play is. Mistral, good luck. Good luck to y'all. But you get where they're coming from. But, you know, we hear this where Apple says that they need to be the leader in AI. Literally, why? Literally, why? Doesn't, right? Meta, right? Mark Zuckerberg is spending tens of billions of dollars so that Meta can be a leader in AI. And my question is simply, why? Not that they don't need to invest into AI, not that they don't need AI infrastructure and support staff and the whole 9 yards, but why do they need to be the leader in AI? I have literally talked to current Meta employees and former Meta employees, just said, hey, you work for Meta. You're in this. Like what am I missing here? What is not getting into TechCrunch about this AI play? And literally the argument of the Meta employees is like, well, AI is going to take over the world. And so if Meta can be top in AI, that's worth a lot of money. It's like, well, yeah, yes, maybe. It's not really how business operates, though. I'm not sure the synergy of we build a lot of communication platforms, and this thing over here is worth a lot of money. I don't understand how that's synergistic. But anyways, we keep hearing this AI push. And I talked about this before with Brian Armstrong. So Brian Armstrong is the CEO of Coinbase, right? He is a crypto bro of crypto bros. And I talked about it. We did a video where he came in 1 week, a little while ago, and he told all of his coders that they had to start using artificial intelligence. You have to start using AI. Right? Gave him a week to start using AI in some capacity. At the end of the week, he then called people in that hadn't started to use AI to find out why they hadn't started to use AI. And so some people had been on vacations, so they got a pass. Some people had other problems, so they got a pass. You had other people that were in there doing their jobs during the week, and they hadn't set up their AI accounts or whatever else. And so he fired them. He fired them on the spot. Having been an employer, look, I'm not Brian Armstrong, I'm not one of these people, but having been an employer and the rest of it, I do really have to question this. I have to question this. If you have all these employees, right? If you have technology employees that are actually adding to the bottom line, they have a return on investment, they're doing projects, they're hitting their fucking KPIs, I do have to question why you would fire a number of them at the end of 1 week simply because they hadn't used a product. You had not done verbal disciplinary or written disciplinary. You simply fired them. Because, I'm just going to put this out there, if the engineers at Coinbase were actually building shit, you probably don't want to fire your engineers in the middle of them building shit. There's a whole bunch of, real technical concepts out there, like API keys and permissions and how you're designing stuff and the rest of it. And you probably don't want to fire the people right in the middle of that. But anyways, hey, don't worry. That's not how Coinbase operates, right? Brian Armstrong wants you as an investor to know Coinbase does not operate from the concept that all of their engineers should be doing productive work in order to maintain and build the infrastructure so that if one of them falls over dead or just gets fired fucking randomly, like there's no issue at all, right? Anyways, right? That's how disposable his engineers are. And then again, you really have to ask this question. If your engineers are that disposable, like why? That's one of the pushback I get from a lot of noobs, a lot of 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, or people who have worked for a long time in startup companies. And they're like, Elon, why are you so cranky and mean all the time? It's like, because have you ever actually had to support users? Here's the thing, 6-figure node developer. When was the last time your failure mattered? What? When was the last time when you screwed up, because we all do, A whole bunch of other people's lives went to fucking hell. If the answer is, I've never had that issue before, we will understand why there are different generations in the tech world. But anyways, right? So it's curious. So Brian Armstrong comes out, basically says, if you don't start using AI, we're going to fire you because AI. And this is what becomes curious here now with Brian Armstrong. So this is on X, this is on Twitter, so this is his official thing, not even a screenshot. Brian Armstrong, CEO of Coinbase, showing you what is most important to the CEO of Coinbase. Approximately 40% of daily code written at Coinbase is AI generated. I want to get it to a greater than 50% by October. Obviously, it needs to be reviewed and understood, and not all areas of the business can use AI generated code, but we should be using it responsibly as much as we possibly can. Now think about that. You know, when you think about, I've talked about this before, but intent, right? So Silicon Dojo, I do the tech education. One of the reasons we call it Silicon Dojo is the idea is that you have to get on the mat. You have to get on the mat. You have to build stuff, right? Because that's when you find out how good you actually are. Yeah, you can do a triple, quadruple spinning kick while going, yeah, when nobody is around. But when you have one guy with one arm, can you just knock your ass out of the air, right? Silicon Dojo, right? One of the things to be thinking about is intent, right? I've talked about that with sparring or violence of any kind, right? If you have the intent is going to drive the final outcome in general in any kind of interaction, right? So we talk about this with martial arts, right? So if the intent is to go in and win, right? The intent is to go in and win when you're going to get on the mat. Here's the thing, you're going to go in there, you're going to throw a couple punches, you're going to throw a couple kicks, you're going to feel really good, and then the other guy's just going to clock your ass. Right? Now, if your only focus is to win, the problem is your brain's going to start to go, oh crap, I might start losing this, and then you start covering up, and then the other person starts beating the hell out of you, and it all goes to hell, right? So the intent is just to win, right? If the other person is actually pretty good, that might be a problem. If the intent is to go in and dominate, right? Bullies like to dominate, right? They like to hurt. They don't like to get hurt, right? You pop a bully in the nose. It's amazing how crap changes really quickly, right? So they go in, I'm gonna dominate. You go against the white belt, right? You're a high-ranking belt. You go against the white belt. That white belt is a fucking carpenter. Oh, that's a bad day. I've had that day. Come on, motherfucker. But I remember, so I was sparring against this one guy. He's a carpenter. He's a white belt, know nothing fucking carpenter. That was the thing. You could land like 20 punches on him, and then he just wound up. And you're on the floor. Why? Because this is what he does. It's 8 hours a day. He drives metal and wood 8 hours a day. This is a very bad day when you get hit by a white belt carpenter. Anyway, so intent, right? You go into bully, right? But one of the things is to think about with the intent, what if you're just going in there to hurt the other person? To hurt the other person as much as you possibly can. See, if your intent is to go and hurt the person as much as you possibly can, if you get punched, it doesn't matter as long as you might be able to trade a punch. You get a gut shot. You might be like gimping along, but you're gonna still try to, right? And what you find is the people that have that intent, right? And many times they'll be successful at the end of the day, right? If they keep going, maybe they get that surprise shot. Maybe the other person dorks themselves out, right? Maybe the other person overextends and throws out a joint or something like that. And all of a sudden you find the person that really just wants to hurt the other side actually has the most chance of winning out of all these different intents. So I talk about that intent because it's very important. Again, what are you actually trying to do? What is your intended purpose here? And where I get concerned with this whole artificial intelligence thing, and what I get concerned with folks like Brian Armstrong, and the problem with Brian Armstrong, right? If Brian Armstrong ran a local MSP, I really want to give two shits. The problem is Brian Armstrong is a crypto bro, right? He is an alpha bro, and he's putting this horse shit out onto the internet. And so if you'll notice here, we talk about KPIs, key performance indicators, right? I would like to decrease the number of errors in submitted code by 90%. Think about that, right? Again, we talk about like what you're actually doing. We find when our coders submit code for review, the review is taking 48 hours because of the numbers of errors in the code. Therefore, I want to decrease the code review time by 80% so that we can deploy more rapidly. So that is why we're going to try to implement systems. And now when we talk about systems, right, in the IT world, in the technology world, that system can just be basic fucking communication. Communication does wonders, I'll just put it out there, right? Are your engineers, are your coders actually communicating with each other appropriately when they're running into problems, when they're running into issues? Do they have visibility over what other people are doing in the project? And do they feel comfortable going to those people to say that there might be an issue, right? What if you have a coder that has visibility into what another coder is doing, a senior coder, and realizes, oh, with the module that I've created, how you're trying to build your code, there is going to be an error there, right? If you have bros, if you have tech bros in the office, blah! Here's the thing, is that geeky junior level developer going to feel comfortable talking to that senior tech bro developer to say that there might be an issue and that there's a problem, right? There's communication issues right there. How everything goes through. You talk about this with naming conventions, how you actually design your software. Is it being designed appropriately for 2025? A lot of legacy code bases, right? You build it for 2015. It's now 2025. Are there better ways of doing things? And so what's interesting here with Brian Armstrong coming out is he's not saying, I want to decrease the time for review by 50%. Or we have X amount of downtime. I don't know if he wants to go out and say this publicly, but we have X amount of downtime every month. I want to try to decrease that downtime by 50%. And with that kind of thing, it might be artificial intelligence. It might be different types of servers. It might be an architecture, caching systems, and that type of thing. There might be 20 different ways to try to get to actually improving the outcome, right? The product that you're actually delivering to the end user. That's what should be most important. And then the question is with all the resources we have and with everything else, how do we most appropriately improve our systems in order to provide that product? What's curious here with Brian Armstrong coming out, he's not talking about that, right? It's not talking about how AI has decreased the auditing and review time. He's not talking about how AI has started finding more bugs, right? We are going to be at the forefront of designing systems to proactively find bugs and issues in our code base using artificial intelligence, that type of thing. No, all he's saying is currently, right, after he told his employees he would fucking fire them if they didn't immediately get onto AI, now he's saying they're not using AI enough, so he wants greater than 50% of the code base to be done in AI by October. And the thing that you really have to be thinking about here is, what does that actually mean? Right? That sounds good to investors. right? That sounds good to the dipshit gallery out there, the dipshit gallery full of peanuts or whatever out there. They're like, AI is the future. But if you're an engineer, if you're a technology professional, that gets rather nerve-wracking. When the executive is mandating a particular product be used without fully defining, again, outcomes and all of this other kind of stuff, that's when it gets to be a wee bit nerve-wracking. So it'll be curious to see how this dipshittery goes into the future. Maybe it will be good for Coinbase. Again, Brian Armstrong is coming out and basically saying his fucking engineers are worthless. Hey, Coinbase engineers, isn't it nice that your CEO is coming out and saying you're worthless pieces of shit? Yay, right? He can fire you on a whim, because you motherfuckers ain't doing anything valuable anyway. At the exact same time, again, pushing a particular product down your throats, not pushing that these are the results that we're given, right? Think about how this could be presented. Because of our use of artificial intelligence, we have decreased our support calls by 50%. Right? Because of our use of artificial intelligence, we have decreased the review time by 80%. Because of the use of artificial intelligence, we've been able to improve the communication amongst all of our engineers. So employee satisfaction is up by a gazillion %. Right, there's a lot of ways that you could present the artificial intelligence argument to put it in the light of how it actually improves the outcome. Or you can be a dick, bro, and you can just say, the whippings will continue until you use more AI. How much AI is enough? Well, if you never define the required outcome, I guess you can always need to use more artificial intelligence. So anyways, what do you think about this? What do you think about Brian Armstrong, CEO of Coinbase, coming out and demanding that more AI be used? Think about this. Think about this too, in the world that he's created as an executive for his company, where he's specifically stated, if you do not get on board with whatever fucking pipe dream he has zero compunction to fire you damn near immediately. You don't get a verbal warning. You don't get a written warning. This isn't a disciplinary process where you get 3 times and then you're let go. It's not like, hey, this is why I think artificial intelligence is going to be important for the company. I understand where you're coming from and why you're hesitant, but you do need to do this. We are not going to have this conversation again. Something like that. No, he's already said, you do not abide by his whims. By God, he is a master of the universe and he will crush you. So think about his employees right now. If the baby king demands that you use AI to create over 50% of the code base, by God, AI is going to create over 50% of the code base. And we'll see what happens next. So what do you think about this? What do you think? This is a good idea? Think it's a bad idea? Do you remember the days? When we understood why we got paid? We might not understand why we got paid so much. Might not understand why somebody decided on that particular legacy system 10 years before we arrived. But remember when we actually understood why we got paid? Remember when KPIs were simply more the idea of how to actually log work? I do think that's fascinating with this whole KPI thing in the modern world, and that it is 2025. And that the whole KPI thing isn't dealt with more. But remember back in the days where it was more that whole idea of that single pane of glass. So the single pane of glass is when you have a dashboard and you can see all the performance metrics for whatever the hell it is that you care about, right? CPU utilization in your servers, work orders being completed by your tech support people or whatever. Remember back in the days when the real question was simply how do you pull that information into reports? How do you actually log the information to begin with, one way or the other, and then how do you pull that into reports, and then how do you turn that into something useful, right? The default assumption was that the employee was doing something valuable for the company. And then everything past that was simply how do you log, how do you create the dashboards, and then how do you actually use that from a management perspective. Do you remember those days? Yeah. Maybe that's one of the problems with modern employees. They are so far removed from the concept that their work should actually bring value to the company. I don't know. Put your thoughts down below. Give us a thumbs up, give us a thumbs down. Call me amazing, call me a moron. Just do it down there in the comment section. Do remember silicondojo.com exists. Hopefully soon we're going to start having the in-person classes in Durham, North Carolina again. We are actually going to start having in-person classes here in Asheville, North Carolina again. And we are having a fireside chat on Zoom with the founder of a $2 billion cybersecurity startup company. And so he can come on and crush your dreams too. I am so tired crushing your dreams. I'll bring in the founder of a startup company, a $2 billion startup company, so he can crush your dreams. See, I'm outsourcing. I am outsourcing. Anyways, with that, see you later.